I'm your host, Christian Black, and welcome back to our Danish miniseries, A Semester Behind Bars. We're going to be talking with Kasper today, a student preparing his bachelor's degree at the University of Copenhagen, and also serving a 14-year prison sentence due to domestic and international drug smuggling. When we first spoke, he was wrapping up his junior college courses online due to COVID-19, and he was pretty happy about that because he didn't have to wake up early anymore to catch the bus from prison to the city for a 3-hour commute. During his time behind bars, he focused on what he can do to set a better example for his two sons. He first enrolled in a few drug intervention courses, then went through therapy, and even completed his high school education while imprisoned. Now, in our last episode, we spoke with Anne, a criminology professor in Denmark who spent her early childhood on a farm that also housed a Danish prison ward. We talked a little bit about Danish prison politics, the practice of normalization, how Danish inmates are able to cook their own meals, vote, and even in some cases go home on the weekend. But we also touched on some of the setbacks too. Usually what happens when you're released from prison. But what happens while you're still in prison in Denmark? We're going to hear a little bit about that from Kasper. I asked him what was his process like and what obstacles did he face along the way due to the flaws of the system itself. But before we hear from him, I feel like it's important to give a brief explanation on how this interview was even possible. Some of you may be wondering, how in the world does this man have access to a computer? And it's able to talk to me, someone over 5,000 miles away, or 8,000 kilometers. Okay, so long story short, Denmark has two types of prisons, an opened and a closed prison. Now, say that I was given a 10-year sentence in Denmark. I would first serve 3/4 of my sentence in a closed prison, and then offered various forms of counseling, education, and therapy if I needed it. Then, after the 3/4 were up, I'd be transferred over to an open prison just to familiarize myself with everyday life on the outside. I would be able to go home on the weekend, go to school with the general public, and even have access to computers and cell phones, like Kasper. After emailing back and forth just to get to know each other, Kasper and I set up a meeting so we could learn about his journey through his prison sentence. His only request when sharing this conversation was that I send him a few questions ahead of time so he could translate it from English to Danish and to bear with his heavy accent. Not a problem. Let's dive in.
Hello, Christian.
Hi, Kasper.
Yeah, nice to hear from you. I hope you can bear over with my accent a little bit.
Oh, no, you're totally fine.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I have looked on your questions and thought about it. My whole journey in the prison system started with going to an arrest house.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you are there, there is like these few possibilities. There is like this, I think that they call it something like pre-treatment. It's like they can't offer like a full time of I don't know what it's called. You know, when you live at a treatment facility.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's like you are there full time, so they are calling it daycare or full daytime care or something like that in Denmark. But when you are in an arrest house, then you can only get these like pre-treatment courses. But that is something that you can choose to do, and that is like some kind of social intervention or rehabilitation process.
Oh, okay.
Actually. Yeah, so there you're like in these groups, and then they are just former addictive or no former people who also had an addiction.
Okay.
Who are now giving it on a little bit similar to NA, you know, Narcotics Anonymous.
Right.
Yeah, something similar to that, but it's not like that because they are more coming in and just have these groups where they are like speaking about addiction and what it does mentally and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. So it's sort of like group therapy.
Yeah, it is. But the group leader isn't a therapist. It's just a former addict who's
Okay.
who have to come further on and then yeah, you know what I mean?
Right. It's so I guess it'll be like the equivalent of AA here in the States because you don't have to
Yeah,
necessarily be a licensed therapist in order to hold a group
exactly.
like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think it would be more effective to have a therapist hold it instead? Or do you think it's more effective to have
Yeah.
someone more
I
like
think it's more effective like this because
hmm
there's a big aversion to therapy and therapists inside the criminal system or what,
hmm
if you can call it that. So if there was a therapist coming in, I don't think that people would look at the person the same way
hmm
as they do as a former criminal,
Right.
because sometimes they are relating like with stories from their own prison time and from their own addiction time.
Right.
So it's like there is like another sort of identification, I think.
Right.
Yeah. So I was actually starting with that. So somehow I did actually start with rehabilitation already in the arrest time,
hmm
in the arrest house, and that was before I got my sentence.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And that was from
Yeah.
your own choosing, or was that
Yeah.
something that they? Oh, nice.
Yeah, it is just an opportunity they have
hmm
and then you can sign up or you can do or you cannot do it, and then they are like giving breakfast, Danish
hmm
and stuff like that, and bread and butter and chocolate and stuff like that. So they are like luring people to come.
hmm
Yeah.
So did because I know in some instances in the States, if you do that, then you get a reduced sentence. So did they reduce your sentence for it, or was it just offered like you can do this or not?
Yeah, they have this it's what it's called in English. It's like do something to get something
hmm
principle.
Right.
Yeah, and they have this principle in Denmark, but it first counts when you get your sentence, and then you go to prison,
hmm
to perhaps a closed prison in my case, and then they actually first start counting when you go to prison.
mm
It's a little silly because then whatever happened before that, it's just like cancelled.
Oh,
So it doesn't make sense that
yeah.
you can smoke hash, you can do drugs, you can fight, you can do a lot of stuff,
Right.
and then when you get your sentence, then they're like if canceling and starting over.
Right.
So it doesn't make sense somehow. It
Right.
doesn't make sense that that people, including myself, uh, that are trying to do it good from the beginning,
hmm
uh, then there's like no carrot at the end, if you know what I mean.
Right.
Because there was this dude in the beginning of my sentence who said to me, you have to act out in the beginning,
hmm
because first of all, if you don't act out in the beginning, they can't see any progress in your behavior.
Really?
And I was like, are you joking? And I didn't
Yeah.
do it. And it was biting me in the ass further on, because in their system, there has been no improvement. I have just been the same the whole way through.
hmm
So they're like, there's no improvement. But there was an improvement because I was just not doing any bullshit in the beginning.
Right.
So it's like so stupid.
Huh.
It doesn't
That
make
is kind of
sense.
redundant if I think about it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, it does.
redundant. Yeah.
And other people who smoked a lot of hashish and did a lot of drugs,
hmm
and then they took like this treatment opportunity of or a treatment option
hmm
that they give, and then they come out on the other side, and then they don't do drugs anymore.
Right.
Then they can see this improvement, and then they want to reward it. But I didn't. I did drugs before I came into prison, and then when I came in prison, in the beginning, I also did some drugs, but I was good at not getting caught.
Right.
So when I signed up for treatment, drug treatment, then there was first like, no, you can't have it because you don't have an addiction. But I said, but I did outside prison, and I did in the beginning. I just didn't get caught. And then there was like, no, you can't get it because we can't see in the system that you had an drug addiction. Yeah, but
So
then I got one good person to speak my case. Actually, it was the therapist from the treatment option, and he said that he has been with me for over a year, and that he could, out from our conversation, see that I had a drug addiction. So because of his words, then they let me in. But then afterwards, when they were looking at my case, then there was like, there has been no improvement. So why should we give you anything?
Right.
Yeah. So because I didn't get any positive urine tests, and I didn't act it out in the beginning, then it bite me in the ass later on.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, it's so technical when it comes to getting certain services inside the institution. Like, they have to see it done in order to get it. You don't just ask for it. I did not know that.
No.
Huh.
No, but yeah, it's ridiculous, and it's yeah.
Right. So, like, say that there was no record and that therapist didn't come and testify for you or said that you needed it, you wouldn't have been able to get it at all, huh?
No, it was because of him I got it.
Wow. Well, say that, okay, you didn't get it, and then now you're released. Say that you're released and your sentence is up. Are you still able to go seek treatment as just a regular Danish citizen?
Can you say that again?
So, say that therapist never said anything, and you didn't get any treatment or help while you were in the prison. But once you got out, then you wanted help, like just inside Copenhagen or Odense or anywhere, right? Are you still able to go seek help for free because universal health?
Nah, I don't think so, because what I've heard, I haven't been looking into it so much. But what I've heard, it's pretty hard to get treatment outside in the normal community. Yeah, but then you need to have some kind of solid addiction, I think.
Oh.
But of course there is like AA, then there is also NA, and we have NA, so there you can always come, But if you go up to like the social services and ask for it, I don't think it's easy to get.
Wow, I did not know there were all these limitations to it. It's like you have to have a justifiable
but there is like many limitations, and I think it's interesting. So I have read a lot about it and stuff like that. And what's funny is that the people who are the most what is called the lowest people of the society, what they're called exposed people. Yeah, they have the hardest time to get all that stuff because they don't have the vocabulary and they don't know how to speak their own case. So often it's like some of the people who are well standard, or what's called in English,
like well off, wealthy, educated.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, those people, if they have a son or a daughter who has an addiction, they can go down and then they can speak, their case well because of their education and because maybe some of them can pay some of it, and then it's much easier for them to get it.
But they aren't really the people who necessarily need it, or at least need it as much as people of the lower class.
Exactly.
Oof, that's a flaw right there. Big
Yeah,
fall.
but it's the same thing here in prison.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen this so many times that some of those who have a bad rhetorical yeah, sometimes the English words just disappear. They have a bad rhetorical way of speaking.
Mm-hmm.
and and then if they have to get anything, because in the Danish prison system I thought it was like if you are just quiet and do your business and do it well, then you will get what is possible, and then they will do to what is in your best interest.
Right.
But in the prison, you have to go to the social worker and say, this is possible for me, so I want us to request this and this.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to know what's possible for me to get it, because they don't do it automatically or by themselves.
Right.
So some people who are just quiet and maybe not so well gifted rhetorical, they are just not getting as much as those who come with some kind of intelligence and rhetorical gifted persons. And that's also something I have grudged over, I think it's called, because that is like a big difference in how people know how to speak their own case.
Right.
And some of them are like authority believers, or what it's called. They are like trusting in their authority.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
So when they do that, they are like fucked somehow, because they are not to be trusted. Not that I'm anti authority, but it's just like you have to speak your own case.
Faith, and you
or
have to
your
defend
matter.
it yourself.
Yeah, but also make it visible what is possible in your own case.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you have to make you noticed somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, what's considered justifiable in order to get help? Like, what are some of the requirements? Do they tell you the requirements, or are you sort of guessing?
Yeah, sometimes you're guessing, and sometimes you're getting it mouth to mouth, as you know from other inmates who says, "Oh, you have this case. This is actually possible for you. Go and ask for it."
Mm-hmm. Oh,
And then you
wow.
go up and ask for it, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, I can see that." And then they sometimes send in a request, and sometimes they say, "No, that's not possible anyway."
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes when they say no, it's not possible anyway, then you can still say. But sometimes it's subjectively, I think it's called, and each social worker have their own like system. So if you are in one prison, then you can get one thing, and then if you are in another prison, you couldn't get the same thing because of the social worker are like their own judges. So they're like, no, I don't think you can get this, and some others think, oh yeah, I think you can get this. So sometimes it's also like throwing a dice where you end and which social worker you have, because there is like no equal system over it.
Right. So, like, some prisons have better social workers than others.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it might be obvious that the open prisons have better social workers than the closed ones, but do like some of the closed prisons, some of the inmates are like, oh yeah, I want to go to that closed prison compared to a different one?
Because of the social workers, yes.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah, so people are calculating in. Yeah.
That's so interesting. Yeah, I thought.
But sometimes you also have like this contact person in the prison guards.
Mm-hmm. What do you mean by that?
And you are like connected to three persons. One is the law person. I don't know. It's called jurist on Danish, but it's like
a parole officer.
No, not that's all first when you come outside the prison. But in the prison, there's like this. Just a second, I just look it up. It's much easier because I know there is like this. It's also just the jurist. It's just the jurist
Jurist.
in English also. Yeah, the jurist. It's like the person who sits with all the what can be done inside the law. And they also have like this sense of justice. And they use that a lot. And then the jurist is like sitting and thinking about what is inside of sense of justice. Yeah. So you have this jurist, and you have a social worker, and you have a contact person inside the prison staff. And like all people are different. Then and all people's human idea.
Right.
Of, as some people have a nice thought of human per se, and some have like all humans, all criminals are bad.
Right.
So if you get one of the old prison staff, then you can be unlucky to have one that doesn't believe in resocialization. Can you say that word?
Rehabilitation or resocialization.
Oh, rehabilitation. Yeah, rehabilitation. And then they won't be positive in their when they send in this note about that this could be good or this could be bad. Then he will write, yeah, he think that it's a good idea, but I think it's not. And then they will always listen to him
because he's.
And then you can have
the word. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly, and then you can be lucky to get a young person from inside the prison staff who has this maybe a little more good view of criminals and believe in rehabilitation. And then they will write, yes, it's a very good idea, and blah 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 blah, and that stuff like that, and then you will get it. So there's like this whole chance of luck. In your whole way throughout the prison system.
Wow.
And that's something that I know many people are like pulling their hair off their head off from.
It's sort of like a gamble of who you get. Really.
It is a gamble. It is really a gamble. And also, like when I was in Søby, the former prison, the closed prison I was in, I was like having this staff person as a contact person who didn't want to go on leaves so much. So I was maximum giving 4 hours at the address with my family, and there was like none in the section I was in, or almost in the whole prison, who got so little time. All the others, some of the others got like 8 hours on the address.
Wow.
And she was like, no, I don't want to. And then I couldn't see my kids, and some of the other guys were just seeing their friends. So I was like seeing my kids and my family, and they were just chilling with their friends, You
should be able to prioritize people then. If it's immediate family, or if you're a single father, or if you're trying to support someone either emotionally or financially, rather than just for leisure.
Yeah, exactly. But that's just the way it is. You get one, and then maybe you're lucky, maybe you're unlucky, and that's it.
Well, why doesn't like the Danish embassy or the Danish government change prison policy and make it equal for everyone? Like everyone gets 8 hours or everyone gets 6 hours regardless.
Yeah, but they always make like just a second, guidelines. They're always making guidelines because of then they can bend it. You know what I mean? So if they make like these strict instructions, then they will have to follow it. But they always make guidelines because so they can bend it. It's like also when I've read some of the laws and some of the rules, they are always like bendable. And so if I come and say, I don't understand why this and this, but when it says like this, and then they are like, oh, then look at this down here, and then it says that like it all above is bendable. So it's
So
like
there's always an
something they have.
exception.
Second?
There's always an exception or sort of like
Yeah,
an
exactly.
excuse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Wow.
And so is it also with that. And you can say I didn't want it to go so much in that particular case, because I didn't want to ruin it for all the others, because many times if one is complaining, then they are always like tighten it up.
Right.
So it's never better for the bigger picture. It's always like if someone is complaining, all right, we just constrict it anymore,
Right.
even more. So I didn't want to ruin it for other people who are like getting 8 hours with their friends, because that's nice for them. I just thought that it was injustice,
Right.
that I couldn't get time with my family as well.
Right. Well, would they reduce everyone's time if there was a complaint?
Yeah, yes. Often they're like going for like the lowest bar, if you can say it like that. So if one have like this big freedom, or what you should call it, and then another one has like this strict freedom, and he's complaining, then they would just lower the bar. All right, then you're all like getting this.
Oh.
They always do like that.
Well, that's not right. That's not right at all.
No, but it's the easiest way to do it.
Right.
But it's also like if one do something wrong, then they will just tighten it up in about that particular phenomenon, or what you call it. For example, we had PlayStations.
Okay. Oh,
and then there was
I
like
heard about it.
Yeah, then there was 3 radicalized who had these ISIS videos on, and then all PlayStations were
banned, taken out. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And they haven't released them again. So it's like, okay, lowest bar just took down.
But that one isn't even your fault. Like, it's none of the enemy's fault.
No. Yeah, exactly. But then it was just a collective, what is it called? Collectively punishment.
Yeah, it was a collective punishment through a decision.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that it was during a tour, and we went inside the juvenile facility, and they had a PlayStation still there, and they said this is the last one that's inside of the institution. They're like, we actually have to get rid of it because of the whole deal with ISIS. But they explained the whole situation to us, and it didn't sit right with me, because I was like, well, that isn't necessarily their fault. Like, I would get if there was an inmate that was communicating with them, or like did something with it, or put an explosive inside of it. Like, there was an inmate within the prison, but there wasn't. So I was like, they sort of got hurt without them doing anything.
Yeah, exactly. I was in that prison where it all happened, when it happened.
Wow.
And it was like 3 Middle Eastern dudes who had these ISIS videos with the decapitating people and stuff like that. So they weren't even communicating with them. They had downloaded these crazy videos and morbid videos, and had them on the PlayStation. That was all. And then they took all PlayStations after that.
That's what happened.
Yeah.
Well, when it comes to differences, when it comes to races and ethnic groups, do you see a divide inside of the prison? Not between inmates, but between how the guards treat you?
I think it's more like some guards have different view of humanity, meaning that some of them just think that the people are good and deserves a second chance, and some people, do you know utilitarianism?
Yeah.
Utilitarianism, and then there's like retribution. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, the difference between those kind of view. And some guards are just, some are just totally utilitarianism, and some of them are just, and there's retributionist. and then it's like there's like this distinct difference. And it's not like some people are in between. It's almost like there is these two groups, and it depends that the people who have this utilitarianism point of view, they are more like meeting all people. No regards to ethnicity.
We're not playing
And
favorites.
say again?
We're not playing favorites. Everyone gets
No.
equal. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's more in the point of view that it's making the difference. But of course there are also racists and stuff like that. So everybody is human. There will always be prejudice, I think it's called, and racism.
Right.
Yeah. But one other thing that also astonished me, that was sometimes I went in to the office where the prison staff is, and then I asked for something like, can we do this and this? And then they're like, no, you cannot do it. And then I was like, all right, they are busy or something like that. But then I saw another person coming in and asking almost the same question, and then they were like, no, and then he was like, crying out, oh, why can't we this, and shouting stuff like that, and they were like, okay, we do it. And then I was like, I need to shout some more to get my way. You know what I mean? And then I make this small attempt or experiment or something like that, because I was like with this gang member, and he was like in Hells Angels, you know that?
Yeah.
And he was and I was coming along with him, and then I went into the office, and then I asked them for something. Can we go out and barbecue? And they were like, no, we are busy. And then I went in, and then 5 minutes after, he went in to ask the same question. And then they said no, and then he was like banging the desk and says, come on, we are sitting in all the time, why the fuck can we come out? And he was like, crying out. And then they were like, okay, we go out and barbecue. And then I went in 5 minutes after, and then I said, okay, so what you're trying to learn me is like that I have to act out some more.
Right.
So when I can come in and I ask nicely and I accept a no, then I should actually just cry out some more and act out, because then I can see it's possible anyway.
Right.
And they were like, no, and I said, yes, that was just what happened.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I confronted them about it, and it was funny to see their their reaction to it. Yeah, but that happens a lot.
Wow, it's like classically conditioning to do the wrong thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, negatively conditioning, I think it's called.
Yeah, if you rebel, then you get your way, which is really what you don't want to teach them.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, that's
it's so stupid.
Ooh, yeah, that's not good.
No, and it's actually funny because many times throughout my prison time, I have made all these small experiments, because sometimes when you read psychology and stuff like that, then you all of a sudden see things that you didn't see before.
Right.
And then sometimes I saw something and I was like, this can't be true, and then I tried it out. You know what I mean? Made an experiment out of it, right. And yeah, it is. Remarkable how stupid some of it is.
Man, well, speaking of psychology and pursuing your education, which I think is really, really awesome at what you're doing, when it came to getting the right help in like counseling and knowing what classes to take and how to register for courses, did you already know how to do that, or did someone come and help you, or did you have to ask for it? What was that process?
There isn't much help to get in prison. You can be lucky that there is like this counseling, study counselor, I think it's called. Some people who are sitting and counseling which study is possible and stuff like that. But most of them are like very incompetent. So I was lucky that Rick Cross have like this juvenile section. No, no, not juvenile, but some young people who are working for free.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. Linda actually taught me about this when I went over there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like sometimes some of the college students they volunteer.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, they volunteer and they help
Exactly.
study.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And I was lucky to meet this young, very sharp and very intelligent young girl
Mm-hmm.
who actually helped me throughout my high school education.
Mm.
And she was like in the beginning, metaphorically, holding my hand
Mm-hmm.
throughout the first couple of. Just a
And you
second.
could try to say it in Danish. I might be able to understand it, just not say it.
Yeah, but opgaver, it's just papers.
Oh, okay.
The first hand-ins in papers.
Mm-hmm.
She was like sitting next to me and saying each word because
Mm-hmm.
I was like just getting a flash backwards to my school time,
Mm-hmm.
and I have never before handed in a paper in school. I have never done homework. I've never done anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like starting from scratch.
Right. Well, before
So
all
so
this,
she was
what was your level of education? Was it like middle
zero.
school? Zero?
Zero. I was like, I didn't graduate the whole high school. No, not
Mm.
high school. What is it called before high school?
Middle school for us. It's probably
Yeah,
called
middle school.
intermediate for you, because in most European
Yeah,
countries it's like intermediate. Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. So I didn't, graduate all the different fag. What is it called? Fag. Danish math and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. What is that called in all?
For math?
No, just you have all these different kind of courses
Mm-hmm. Like
or subject.
subjects,
Yeah, subject.
grade levels, yeah.
Yeah. So and besides that, I have never done one. And I mean it literally. I have never done one Danish hand-in.
Mm-hmm.
I have never done anyone besides math. Math I find easy when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So that was funny for me. But besides that, I never did homework. I never did studying. I never did anything besides making noise in the class.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like starting from scratch. And then I remember the first time I was like sitting in front of the paper, I just flashed back to school and was almost the same young guy who was sitting in front of the paper, and as blank as the paper was, as black was my thoughts.
Right.
I just like got this blank sheet down. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So she was like in the beginning, taking my hand and saying, "Okay, now we do this. Now we do this. Try to write this. Try to write this." And she had to help me like start a sentence, and she had to help me with everything like that. So she was very patient with me.
It's great.
Yeah.
And very lucky that she was there inside that institution too, so you can do it.
Yeah. I sometimes I have inside prison started to believe in something greater, because of there have been so many important meetings with some people that without them I wouldn't have gotten this far that I got that I've gotten now.
Right. And then is she the one helping you for your BA right now at the University of Copenhagen?
Yeah, but she's now working, so she's like she took law school, and now she's finished with that, so she's like working now. So
okay.
she always says if I need any help, I should just call or write or anything. So then her door is open.
Oh, that was nice of her.
So she has been a big help, and she's also been a big help finding out which way I would go. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So she was like the guide for me, and she was like also a mentor and a teacher, and I owe her a lot.
Right. That's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love hearing stories about that.
Yeah. I also love telling it because she is just a remarkable person, and she's just I owe her so a lot.
It's wonderful. Well, how about tell me this, because with this whole COVID-19, coronavirus going around, I've just been observing people and seeing how different countries are reacting, and also things being shut down. And as you know, that I work with inmates here in the States, in California, and how that's shut down, and I can't communicate with them now, which is very hard, because some of them were actually getting ready to graduate and go out on parole pretty soon, so it's sort of delaying it. But as a student, and having this happen for you, because I know that you were able to actually go out on leave, and were you on campus at the University of Copenhagen?
No, I first started at August.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so right now I'm going to like this some sort of high school where you can take these single subjects. Just if you want to expand your knowledge, you can say.
Oh.
Yeah. So right now I'm just taking math and philosophy, just to expand, if you can say it like that.
That's great. Well, for since you were going there now, and then this whole epidemic happening, you can't go there now because everyone's quarantined. So what are you doing in the meantime in order to handle it emotionally, and then also just to keep yourself busy too?
Yeah. I'm lucky enough to have this computer, so I can just keep on studying somehow, because they are like putting it out virtually and online, so I can just downloading it and then keep on studying.
Right.
But emotionally it's just like I think I'm like on the bottom I have made a positive mind, so it's like I'm just getting the best out of it, of everything. So now I'm just enjoying the sun and enjoying that I don't have to use almost 4 hours on transport each way. So I'm just making the best of it.
That's great. Well, what advice would you give just normal students, like the people that I work with, or the people at my university and things like that are now quarantined and sort of feel the same way that you feel because they can't go anywhere, and they can't continue their studies? What piece of advice would you give them?
I think it's a little hard. But are they like incarcerated, or are they just normal students?
Yeah, for both.
Yeah, definitely. I will do it differently, because people who are used to being incarcerated, it's like it's the same almost, It's funny actually to hear some people outside of prison speak how hard it is to be home.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because it's like, okay, welcome to our world. So I can hear people here. I can hear people here. You know what? And not as a here, and they are here. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Okay, and they're like all the time complaining, and I think sometimes when I say something to them, they're like shaking their heads because we are like different places. So to people who would understand me, I would just say to them that just get the best out of it, because I think there is sometimes where there's opportunity to somehow be contemplative. You know what I mean?
Right.
And sometimes the opportunity is to be more extrovert. Is it called that in English also?
Yeah. I guess more
introvert and extrovert.
Yeah, if you become extroverted, it means that you're able to sort of communicate with other people better on a more emotional, and you're more outgoing. I
Yeah,
think the
okay.
word that you're looking for is more sort of more happy, more looking at the bright side, the silver lining
Yeah,
of it, and
no,
what you
yeah,
can
also
do.
that,
Mm-hmm.
but I also mean that some situations
Mm-hmm.
open up for contemplative discipline or something like that, where you can seek inside and where you can sit down and studying,
Mm-hmm.
and some situations are like given the opportunity to expand and to go out and to not be so contemplative,
Mm-hmm.
if you know what I mean with that.
I know what you
Because
mean.
yeah, because sometimes it's like the weather is nice and stuff like that. Then you
Mm-hmm.
can go to the beach, you can go out being with people, you can go out and see a lot. And then
Mm-hmm.
sometimes if it's like raining or snowing and cold, then it's more like giving the opportunity to stay home
Mm-hmm.
and maybe do some contemplative praxis, if you can
Right.
say it like that.
So this is more of an
So
opportunity to contemplate, not only as an
yeah,
individual, but more as a
yeah.
group or society, really.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like see what the situation is giving you as an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I also think I learned that throughout prison because I found that out that I was actually free somehow because of it's just a more meta perspective,
Mm-hmm.
but but if you look at it like in when you are a kid, then you have these restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
In the kindergarten, there are certain rules, and you have to be inside the hens
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. And then when you go to school, the hens is open and you can go in and out, but you have other restrictions and you have more responsibility. So it's like the restrictions around you are like different for different periods of your life.
Mm-hmm.
So when you become an adolescent, how do
Mm-hmm.
you say that word?
More like an adult.
Adult, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but there is like this room between juvenile and adult that
Mm-hmm.
I think they call it adolescent
Oh, like a young
a,
adult or adolescence.
adolescence,
There you
that
go.
was the word.
Mm-hmm.
Adolescence, yeah. So there you have like other responsibilities and there is like expecting certain things of you.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you get adult, then there's like work and there's like society and there is like rent and stuff like that. So you will become you will have different restrictions again.
Mm-hmm.
So throughout life, the restrictions will all the time change, but inside of the restrictions, there is also like this freedom that is up to your
Mm-hmm.
own creation.
Mm-hmm.
If you know, so it's like right now my restrictions is like more like movement,
Mm-hmm.
but I have this huge free opportunity of freedom to be contemplative.
Mm-hmm.
So and sometimes I think when you are outside of prison and then you have to work and you have to take care of kids, you have to uh, put them to kindergarten and go down and get them again and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So then you will have more mobility and freedom, but you will maybe not have as much contemplative freedom, if you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Right.
So it's like for me, it's like each period of your life have different restrictions,
Mm-hmm.
but in those restrictions, you have to create your own freedom or
Right.
find it.
Hmm. So I guess as a um in a global aspect, then our restriction is this sort of pandemic or epidemic.
Yeah,
However,
right now it
it's
is
our responsibility to create our own freedom and also
inside.
prepare for the future inside. Yeah.
Yeah, inside of that restriction
Right.
or pandemic. Yeah, and I think that is like our own, always our own responsibility to find that freedom or
Mm-hmm.
to create it,
Mm-hmm.
because each situation has its own opportunities.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's definitely something that can be taken away from people who aren't incarcerated right now. I wonder how because I'm not able to communicate with the American
Mm?
inmates right now. I wonder if they're taking the same perspective. I don't think that they would.
No,
But you never know. I definitely would want to
no,
ask them once I'm able to contact them again.
yeah.
How are the other inmates around you sort of reacting to this?
I can't say that one's is similar to another. I think as many people there are, as many different reactions are there.
Right.
But there is like those who are like anti authority, and they're doing this on purpose, and they're just trying to ruin our relationships to our family and stuff like that, you know. And then there's like other people who are just like saying, "Oh yeah, okay, it's understandable. They don't want COVID-19 in the prison, so it's all right and it's understandable."
Right.
And then there's all the people between.
Wow. So there's sort of like a divide for it then. A divide
Yeah,
of
very hard.
opinions anyways, I suppose.
Yeah, and some are saying like, let's do a riot because they can't take our leave and they can't take our daily passes out.
Ooh, that's a thought.
Yeah, so it's like very different.
So it's like, well, they've already taken away everything that they can, so we might as well.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, exactly. So what the hell?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how about when it came to, so nothing's offered when it comes to the prisons, like different workshops or presentations or like meetings or anything like that, that sort of advertise ways in order for you to rehabilitate for back into society, or as an individual, do you have to actively look for them? And the reason why I'm asking is because I was supposed to hold a workshop this month inside the prison, and I was going to hold a few different ones, like one on how to successfully get a career once you're released out of prison with a criminal record, because that's actually really, really hard to do here in the States. Another one was how to go ahead and finish your education for your associate's degree before you get a bachelor's degree. How to go ahead and apply for colleges. It was different ideas that I had for the inmates that they've been asking for. But I was wondering if you had any opportunities or had any workshops that someone came into the prison and offered some sort of activity for you to do.
Yeah. It's very different also. For example, Søby, the prison I was in before, they were like very good. They had many opportunities. They had many different kind of things that you could do. But other prisons have like nothing. So it's also different from prison to prison. How good the opportunities are.
Well, what determines what prison you go to? Is it just, yeah, I have no idea.
Your social number, I think.
Yeah. Oh, your social security number?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, so and sometimes I because sometimes it also depends on which city you're from. So like people from this city are sent to this prison and stuff like that. But it's not always like that, because I was the only one from my case. Is it called case? From my case, who was sent to Jylland. I was sent like the farthest prison away. I was sent to.
Wow.
So, and some of the others were sent to a prison between our hometown and the prison I was in. It's called Nyborg.
Oh, I know where that is.
Yeah. So we were like all from the same city, and we were just spread out. So and that was after our sentence, where we were allowed to be in the same prison. Before our sentence, we were not allowed to be in the same prison.
Oh wow.
Because we could make different agreements, or we could what is it called?
A plot.
Yeah, exactly. Plot. Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
So that is also just like random.
well, what other opportunities are given inside prison, like Sugo, besides education?
There is like these treatment opportunities, and there is like also other interventions, and there is also these cognitive. What is it called in English? QFP.
Cognitive therapy?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but it's like more particular. No, more like in one way. It's like there's like this cognitive therapy for violence, for example.
Oh, uh-huh. So
And
like anger management?
yeah, anger management is
Mm-hmm.
called in
There
English.
you go.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And then there is also like some for criminal thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So where you can learn not to think criminal, but
Mm-hmm.
but they all have this cognitive ground or base, if you can say it like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they are like uh, I have met some of the therapists, and they are like some of them are former prison guards who have been taught it, if you can say it like that.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like just giving on what they were taught,
Mm-hmm.
but some of them are so badly taught in it. So I was like sitting and thinking, but what you are explaining are wrong. It's not how it is. It's not
Right.
how So it was like, yeah.
Hmm.
And also I've been with some people. Do you know you can get a life sentence, and then in Denmark you can get this sentence where you don't get any time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you are in there on uncertain time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like indeterminate sentence.
Oh, an
In
indeterminate sentence.
Yeah,
Huh.
yeah,
So you
exactly.
really don't know when you're gonna get out.
No, it's not. It's just like yeah, they use to people they think who are too dangerous to come out again.
Oh.
So they just get this sentence who has no amount of years or time. It's
Mm-hmm.
just we look at it over time.
Right.
And then I was with one person who obviously was. Do you know the difference between the different psychopaths? Sometimes when I have read about it, they have like this primary
Mm-hmm.
psychopath, and then
Yeah.
they have this secondary psychopath,
Mm-hmm.
where the primary is like intelligent and but don't have any social or what is it called, emotional empathy, I
Mm-hmm.
think they call it. But they are very good at reading situations,
Right.
and they are manipulating
Mm-hmm.
manipulating and stuff like that, and they don't have this emotional empathy. And I was with one
Mm-hmm.
who obviously was primarily a psychopath, and his mental, what is it called, his mental papers
Mm-hmm.
uh, said that he was it. And he was like asking me, what does this mean, what does this mean? And I was like coming very very along with him, because he was a very nice guy, but he was
Mm-hmm.
just he couldn't feel what was right or wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But he was really really intelligent also. So it was very funny to be with him, and because I have read a lot about psychopath, it was funny, or funny is maybe the wrong word.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting maybe is better to to get to know him, because first of all he's like become my friend,
Mm-hmm.
and he was like, but why is this wrong? He couldn't understand why some of the thing he did was wrong, because it was like, no, but he did this, so it was okay, I did this.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was going to one of those in sort of the anger management.
Mm-hmm.
And then the therapist couldn't see through him, if you could say it like that,
Right.
because he was charming, he was intelligent, and he was good at speaking and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then he just got the best, what is it called, note from her.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and he was just manipulating her.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think I can't be sure, but if a more experienced therapist who was actually educated a therapist
Mm-hmm.
would maybe spot that behavior.
Right.
If you do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I had to study forensics for a while. And the difference between antisocial personality disorder and psychopathic traits.
Mm-hmm.
So there's different types of psychopaths when it comes to industrial psychopaths or psychopaths that are incapable of social empathy or
Yeah.
empathy for other people.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the way that the states usually handle it is if somebody is diagnosed with psychopathic traits or social personality disorder or any other traits, they're usually put into a psychiatric hospital rather than a prison. So, do you guys usually follow the same guidelines or?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But he was too well functional.
Mm-hmm.
Well, do you know what? Well, he was too normal.
Mm-hmm.
And he was too well social good, if you can say it like that.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't want him at the psychiatric hospital or prison. It's like it's more like we have a prison that is like this psychiatric prison.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's not like a hospital. We also have hospitals, but if you get this in the terminate sentence, you are like going to this prison. It's called Herstedvester.
That's what Hesta Vista is. Because I have a list of all of the prisons and hospitals there in Denmark. But of course, I wasn't able to visit all of them. I think I only went to 3. So that's what that one is. Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and they also have like these pedophiles and child molesters, and then there is like a lot of people who are excluded from that prison because they are afraid of assaults on the pedophile and child molesters.
How do they usually sentence pedophiles and child molesters?
Like nothing. They're like getting 1 or 2 years.
Really?
Yeah, there was just a older lady. I think she was perhaps in the 60s or so, and she had like molested her child through 12 years.
Wow.
And she got like in open prison. So, and I think she maybe got 1.5 years and stuff or so.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but some other inmates find out that she was a child molester, and then she, got molested herself, and then she was moved to another prison.
Well, does the sentences, is there usually a huge relapse or reoffense for child molesters and sexual harassment, people charged for sexual harassment?
Say that again.
So like usually the people who are put inside prison for like pedophiles and stuff like that, are they more common to go back than other prisoners?
To prison again? Like recidive, or what is it called?
Right.
Yeah, that I actually don't know. But I know that they have these prison and sections for those people only.
Right.
Yeah. So we don't see them. So I haven't seen the recidive percent, or what is it called, in that kind of criminality.
Well, what do you think is the hardest part when it comes to, getting out, starting your education, and actually going on campus? What was the biggest challenges that you faced while doing that?
But I'm first going to campus this summer. So about campus, I actually don't know yet. But when I went to this school where I go now, But again, I was very positive about it, so I was just like going there, and then I went in, and then I spoke to people, and then after a week, there was one who asked me that maybe we could do some homework together, and I was like, yeah, but we have to do it on the school. And then he was like, why? And then I said, because I'm an inmate, so I have to go back to prison, and I'm only allowed to be on the school or in the near area around it. And then he was like, oh, okay, why are you in prison? I was like, because of this and this. And then, oh, okay, that was stupid. And then it was that, you know?
Wow, it's totally normalized? Like,
not normalized, but he was just like, okay, cool that you are doing something different.
right.
Yeah, so if I came in and was like, and sounded like some, I don't know, stupid one or something like that, maybe he wouldn't be as casual about it,
Right.
or normalized about it. But he was just like, oh, cool, you're doing something good about it, and nice that you're using the time in prison good. And then it was like that, you know.
Right. Okay. Do you feel uncomfortable disclosing that you're an inmate on campus, or do people usually react badly, or is it usually a normal conversation like that?
I can only compare it to where I am now. But just a second.
Bare mig, hvor det ligger bare her.
Ja, det er fint.
Det kommer lige en sandwich.
Yeah. It's just because we are in a food group. It's called.
A food group, yeah.
So we eat, So we eat together, and then the other dudes are finished eating, so he just would come in with my part of the food.
Oh, that was nice of him.
Yeah, so he's just coming in again, just a second, like that. But then it was just, I don't care actually what people think, and some will have like this hard it's called prejudiced, about it, and actually I'm like, yeah, that's their problem, because I've done what I've done, and I have taken my sentence, and I haven't complained, and now I'm just doing my best to make a new life in front of me. So if people think bad about it, it's all right. It doesn't affect me so much.
Right.
So but I don't go out and shout it, you know. It's like I let them meet me, and then when they have met me, then some people I tell it to, and then some people I don't, and it's just like that.
Right.
But I haven't met anyone where I have told it who hasn't just been curious or like, oh, nice that you're doing something else.
Right.
That's the most common reaction I get.
That's good.
Yeah.
I think I'm asking because for my inmates that are coming to the actual campus where I work at, there's a lot of stigma behind it. And usually they don't disclose it at all. And I feel like that we should have more resources on the campus for people who've been formerly incarcerated or need help or guidance when it comes to either academic resources or personal resources too. So I'm just trying to figure out a way in order to defuse that stigma, not only for our faculty and staff and like teachers and counselors and things like that, but for our general population, for other students too, so they feel comfortable interacting with them.
I think.
Go ahead.
I just think the best solution to that is not to live up to the stigma. Because many people I see, also inmates, they kind of live up to the stigma. And I think that is the biggest mistake, is not explicit to make a distance to it, if you can say it like that. Because some of the people, they say, I don't like the stigma, and then they're like, if in here, like, remember that you're a criminal. Why do you want to take an education? Just remember you are a criminal.
Right.
And then they, in the same sentence or breath, they almost said, but I hate that we are stigmatized.
Right.
But you know what I mean? It's like, it's like
You're not
conflicting.
helping, no.
Yeah, but you can't say both. You can't say that you won't be stigmatized, and in the same way that you won't be a criminal
Mm-hmm.
and live up to it, because it's the same.
Right.
So it's like the mind about it, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I have one of the tough parts. It's like education and want to do a new life of or a new point of view. It's like it's tabuized. Is it called tabuized?
Mm-hmm.
In prison. So it's like some people have said to me, why do you want to take an education? You can't even use it because of your criminal sense. What is it called? In Denmark, we have these papers.
Mm-hmm.
So after you are out of prison, you have it on your social papers that you have been inmate.
Mm-hmm.
So many people can't get a job
Mm-hmm.
because of those papers.
Right.
But still, I think some jobs you can get, but there's a whole bunch of jobs you can't get.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think some of the jobs you can't get, you actually can get if you do it the right way.
Mm-hmm.
Because I want to work with people who are also maybe exposed, if you can say it like that.
Mm-hmm.
But then I want to use my own experience and my own past as a ballast. Can you say that?
Right.
Yeah, because then I have been through it. I have lived it. I have had personally growth throughout it.
Mm-hmm.
So in that way, I think that I can maybe help others in the same situation.
Mm-hmm.
Or similar situations,
Right.
like crisis and stuff like that.
You would want to work inside special populations then. That's what I do. So,
Yeah.
Not only with inmates, but single mothers, foster youth,
Yeah.
veterans, people that were part of the military.
Mm.
Yeah.
I'm actually myself former military.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I learn something new about you every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I know that there's one thing that we have at the institution I work at. I'm trying to connect my institution with another institution that's nearby in the same county, same land, because what the other one does is that they have former drug addicts and former incarcerated people help with drug rehabilitation. It's a job, and they pay them very well, because it's near to impossible to get a job at all if you're ever an inmate here in the States. So I'm trying to come up with new inventive ways in order to give people a career, or at least some source of income once they're out. But how easy do you think it would be in order to get a job or a career once you're out?
I think it depends much about which way you want to go. Yeah, because you need what is it called, like carpenter and people who build the houses and stuff like that. And in that section, I think it's more easy to get a job than being a social worker. But I also think that some young people who are going down the wrong way, a road, maybe will listen more to a former criminal. So I also think that some of the people maybe can be a big help to society if we let them be a help. But I also sometimes, besides my positive thinking, sometimes lose a little bit of hope for some criminals, because they are like so locked in their thoughts and way of thinking. So when I come out, I'm like, maybe in some years I would like to work with inmates and stuff like that again, because I have been there and done that. But sometimes I also think it's a lost case for most of them. Of course, there is like many people I've met, but it's like maybe 5% or 10 maximum 10% of the inmates I've met who actually believed there was another way, or dared to try another way. I have been with some who went out to like this it's called pensions in Denmark. It's like what is it called? It's like where you can go on like parole before you get released.
Oh,
I know
it's
there's
something.
a
It's something only done in Denmark, I think. I know what
no.
you're
There's
talking
also
about.
these small homes. I have seen it in maybe
Oh, a
okay.
halfway house.
Halfway houses,
There you
yeah,
go.
that was what I was looking for. And then when they were there, they were like on purpose getting caught because it was too much to come out again.
Wow.
Yeah,
Because that was
so
normal life for them.
yeah, yeah. There was one guy I was speaking a lot with. He was actually very kind, and he was like two persons. It's actually funny because a lot of them I've connected with. They were like one person when we were alone in a room, and then when they were out in the big social area, it was like gangsters, you know. But then when they came in, they were like, oh, how are you doing this? How do you find so much calm? Or can you teach me that? Or can you help me? Some of them called me Zen, and some of them called me Jesus, and some have called me Buddha. So it's actually funny. And then out in the big social area, they're like, wah, 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 like alphas, you know? And then when they come in, they're like, can you teach me?
Right.
And then there was one guy called Joachim, and he was going out on a leave, and it was just before he went to this halfway house, and then he took his parents' car, rode down to the nearest supermarket, went in, made a robbery, and he was like parking the car outside of the supermarket where there was cameras, and then he went in the car and went home, and then he was sitting waiting for the police.
It's like he did it on purpose.
Yeah, he did it on purpose. I know he did. It was he was like in the weeks up to, he was like so nervous, and he was like, I can't make it out in the society. I have been here for like 16 years on and off, and I can't make it. I can't do it. And then he did that. So yeah, it was actually very sad to see.
Well, what do you think can be done in order to prevent things like that? Like in order to make inmates feel more confident while coming out?
But why it's hard is because of the taboo. It's like a big taboo in it, because some of them, if they say yes to that opportunity or service, maybe like a mentor or something like that, then some of the alpha role is taken from them. And if they think they have to go back to prison, or if they're not sure about making it, then I think some of them are too scared. Because then when they come back, they are not the same alpha, they are not the same badass person, because they have said yes to actually want to change.
Right.
So I think it's the whole ground thought that is like dominating the prison or the criminal mind that should be worked with. And it's like collectively, because it's like the dominating collectively thought, if you can say it like that. So even if some of them would like to say yes, I think the most of them would say no.
Right. It's like in psychology, the sense of social identity and even imposter syndrome too, because you sort of contradict yourself. saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to change, I'm going to be better. And then you end up relapsing or doing the same mistake over and over. So it can get really psychological too. It's pretty interesting. That's another workshop that I wanted to cover at my prison when it came to imposter syndrome. I'm not sure if you studied that inside psychology yet.
No, can you say a few words about it?
Yeah, sure. So,
imposter syndrome. Yeah.
Okay, you remember? Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I just didn't remember the first word, imposter. Yeah, but I know.
Yeah. So yeah, imposter syndrome. I know that's something that they struggle with a lot at my prison. Do you find the same issues at yours, or the ones that you've been to?
A lot. Also, the thing I said before about being two persons. It's almost the same, because they are going out to try to be something else. And I see this big conflict, and it's funny sometimes, because I've been in some there's prisons, and then there's sections, and then in the section there's like these smaller sections. And then I was in this small restrained section where we was like locked down six and six on each row, if you can say it like that. And then it was like in the beginning, it's a very big distance between each person. But then when I've been there for like 3 months, I have succeeded, or I would call it a success, because then in the end we were like sitting all six eating together, shut the television off, and then we were like together. But it was like from getting one to sit with me and eat to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 and then to 6. And then it was like with the television on maximum, because it would be scared to hear ourselves think,
Right.
But then it was like turning it down, and then all of a sudden I tried to shut it off, and then in the end, or what you can say, it was like cozy to be together, but it was like this big process to make it happen, if you can say that.
Right.
And I think that in the beginning it was like these roles that when we are out in the big social area, we are hard dudes and gangsters. So we don't eat together. Like it's too intimate, or intim. Oh, intim. What is it called? If it's too, is it called intim?
Yeah, intimate is right.
Yeah, intimate. Yeah, and then slowly it was like they dared to be themselves in the social area we had.
Right.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So interesting. I remember going to an open prison, and the inmates had so many questions, because one, they were like, oh, an American, why are you here? Why did you even come to Denmark? And then it was just on and on and on. And one of them asked, oh, what do you cook in the States for inside the prisons? And our inmates aren't allowed to cook or anything like that, meals, as you might know. So it was really interesting reading Linda's article on food groups in general, in the sense of community that you could have there at the institution. And even what struck me as most interesting was how in certain food groups they would divide the responsibilities. And it was even for people who couldn't afford buying certain things at the mart. Okay, I'll buy this, you'll buy that, or I'll buy this. Or if you didn't have anything, then you could still eat, but you would wash the dishes, and it was always some innovative way to be included. Which I wish existed here in the States, and I feel like it would be beneficial too. I think I could be able to replicate it the same in study groups also. Students who are inside the same group of study or the same class, if they can bring different things to the group that's beneficial for them studying or passing a test,
Yeah.
that would probably encourage them to come together and build a sense of community too, at least inside of the class itself.
Yeah.
But that's besides the point, I suppose.
No, I think it's very similar.
Mhm.
But in here it's like there is also this let's call it a catch about the criminal mind, and it's like always ready to prey on the weak, and you also see some getting used, if you can say it like that. Then there are some people including them, but they are only including them to use them.
Right.
Yeah. So I also see some not so strong people,
Right.
like forced to do more dishes than usual than what right is, if you can say. So yeah.
Yeah.
But that's just how it is
That's just
in
how it
prison.
is right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's all the questions I had. Did you want to ask me anything?
Yeah. I had some few, but I can't remember them right now. I didn't wrote them down, but I was like, I'm sure I can remember them, but we have been through so much. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
But
if you ever want
I would like to speak maybe some more, because it's also here in the beginning. It's a little hard for me just to switch to English, and then some words are just disappearing as I have to use them.
Right.
So if you were up to it, then we could speak maybe some other times.
Yeah, of course. Anytime, actually. I really enjoy speaking with you.
Yeah, me too. With you, of course, but that would be nice, because like when we are mailing, it's also like the first mail took me like 1 hour to write it, and then it just went faster and faster. And I think it will be the same also when I hear you speak that word.
Right.
So that would be nice also, because it's a little hard for me here in the beginning, because there's one thing is speaking English to another, just daily use, if you can say it like that.
Right.
And then when we speak like this, it's a little more formality. Is it called
More
that?
formal.
More formal. So I have to dig deeper to find some words and to make the sentence. Yeah, it is called sentence, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
We did really good. I say that. Yeah, really, really good. A lot better than if we spoke in Danish for me. A lot better.
But English is also an international word. Danish isn't. So, yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. But by the way, I love when you write something Danish in the end of the mails. Last time, I don't know what it's called in English, but you wrote in Danish, "Hvad udad tabes skal indad vindes."
What was, I think in English, it's what was lost without can be found within.
Yeah.
Roughly.
And
yeah.
yeah, but it also makes sense. But I just love that quote. So it was funny that you chose that one.
Right. I know it's a pretty popular one. It's ingrained inside you guys' history, so I thought of that one.
Yeah. But some people are just too. I think they read it shallow because there is so much depth in it. Yeah. I'm sometimes very philosophical. What is it called? Philosophical. Yeah, about stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, I actually share that with Americans all the time, that quote, because I love it. I feel like that really sums up Danish society and community, or at least the experience I got when I lived out there. That's what I got. And then I know that a lot of people had different experiences. It was so interesting talking to other people, whether it's other Danes or like Italians or people that were living out there with me. And the different experience they got from the general population, because I only got good experiences. But that's because I met really, really good people like Linda and Anne.
Yeah, she's also fantastic.
So yeah, I met a lot of really good people while I was out there.
Yeah, there are also a lot of good persons.
Hmm.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
And then
But
hopefully, once this virus goes away, I can go out there again and visit them. So,
visit Denmark again?
of course,
Oh, nice.
I always try
Yeah.
to visit as much as possible over there.
Ah, nice. Yeah. If you ever come to Denmark and Linda maybe can make it possible that you can come and say hello, I would really like to meet you.
Yeah, of course. I could
Yeah.
try, definitely. I mean, I was surprised how easy it was to go
Yeah.
visit a prison when I went over there. Because it takes like years almost in order to visit a prison here in the States. If
Okay.
it's not for a family member. If it's for a family member, it may take a few weeks.
Yeah.
But if you're just going just to go or to research or to get a tour or something like that, it will take years.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was very easy. And
Yeah.
I was shocked almost.
Yeah. But they also have this. I think they call it visibility principle. So they are like open, but still closed because of the hints and the prison system. But they have this visibility principle where they want it to be open for the society what is happening. So I think it's because of that it was so easy for you also.
Do you know why they put that principle in action? Was it always there, or did something happen?
No, it's like that something for something principle that I told you before, and then they have like this visibility principle, and they have like these 5 principles that are like the core of how they want their concern to be.
Right.
Yeah, and when I had that course with Linda, like Jura or law school in prison, then we learned about all that, and some of the theory is also what is happening in praxis. Is it called that praxis? Yeah, and some of it is just so far from the truth.
Right.
So it was a little funny.
So it was like a hit and miss almost.
Second?
It was a hit and miss almost. Like some of it is actually being practiced, and others it was just said but not actually done.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. If all this conversation leads to some other questions, you can just write them, or we can take them next time we talk.
Oh, definitely. This is just the beginning. So if that's all right with you.
Yeah, perfectly. First of all, it's very giving for me to speak about it, because I think sometimes, because of my experience in the prison system, I have like this inside knowledge, but I can't use it for anything.
Right.
And I have also been looking at something, group psychology with guards and inmates, and how this we and them minds. It's on Danish called us, but if you have 2 groups, it's like us and them. Us and them is called, of course, and stuff like that. So it's like I have a lot to share, but I haven't anyone to share it with.
Right.
So it's also very giving for me, and it's also very giving to have the opportunity to share it to someone that whom I don't have to explain everything to first, because you have this psychological knowing if already.
Right.
So it's very nice for me also to get it. To get the opportunity to say it out loud.
Well, I'm definitely honored to listen and even have the opportunity to listen, because I definitely wouldn't have any opportunities whatsoever here in the States without going through a bunch of paperwork just to talk to inmates. And then even when I get to talk to them, I can only ask them certain questions. I would have to run my questions by a warden or, a prison guard or something like that before I can even ask them. There's a lot of restrictions, so I appreciate the freedom that the Danish correctional institutions provide. even though it's not necessarily perfect. And I've learned more and more of that. And that's one thing I definitely appreciate too, this insight knowledge that you have of the prisons, because there's this whole grandiose, it looks perfect, everything's taken care of
Yeah.
for the prison
Illusion.
system. But the more that you dig inside of it, it's like, well, actually, this needs to be fixed here, or this little work there, or oh, this is actually horrible here. So it's sort of a give or take, really. That both things can be taken from, Danish correctional practices for the states, but it also provides self-reflection on what isn't perfect, not only for correctional facilities in Denmark, but for Danish society too. So we can both be better. That's the way that I see it, though.
Yeah, exactly. That's also a very good way to see it.
Yeah.
But I always think, I was about to say, that you have to have that side on life, that there is always a better way, because then it will inspire you always to look for the better.
Right.
Because, yeah. So I think it's just a good point of view to have in all ways of life. Yeah.
I definitely agree.
Yeah.
Well, for our next meeting, how about that you guide the questions? You can make a list, and then whichever day that works for you. Don't worry about time or dates or anything like that. I can definitely work around it. But yeah, since I spent most of this session sort of asking you question after question after question, I definitely want to make it equal for you to ask as many questions as you like. And if I can help in any way, I'd be happy to do so.
Yeah. All right. That could be nice.
Yeah, definitely. Sounds good. Well, it was so great talking to you.
Yeah, you too, Christian. And thank you for bear over with sometimes I'm a little short on words.
Oh no, you were perfect. You were absolutely perfect. So
thank you.
I'm sorry that my Danish isn't perfect yet. It's a hard language.
I was counting on your Danish. I was more counting on my English, so that's all right.
But all right, I'll talk to you very soon. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
You must have a great day, and then thank you for the talk. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
See you, Christian.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye. We want to thank you again for listening to OSM's second Danish miniseries episode, A Semester Behind Bars. Next Tuesday, we're coming back to America and speaking with Matthew Kincaid, an influential activist battling racism and inequality in public education here in the United States. Now, what many of you may be wondering is, why did we start with Denmark? Well, here at OSM, we want to really challenge you, the listener, in applying your imagination and seeing, is rehabilitation possible in our current prison system? Is free healthcare possible? Is free education possible? And what will we have to do in order to make that happen? You've seen both the good and the bad that countries like Denmark or Norway or Sweden has to offer inside of their prison systems. Now, what we want to do here is challenge you and say, will we be able to apply those same practices here? Will we trust our inmates to go home on the weekend so we're cook their own meals with, access to knives or other cooking utensils that are necessary to make a proper, nutritious meal? What will we have to do as Americans in order to get closer to a more collectivistic society that focuses on the people rather than punishments? And more importantly, what will we have to do as a people in order to make that change happen? Is reform possible, or is abolition necessary? Can the system be tweaked, or do we need a whole new system altogether? Those are the questions that are being proposed today, and here at OSM, we hope to tackle them. So as always, thank you again for listening to Our Small Majority. I'm your host, Christian Black, and we'll see you next time.